era platser. Gärna flytta fram lite som sagt, så att inte alla sitter långt bak. Det känns lite konstigt och större att prata när många sitter långt bak. In Ghent, in Belgium, Networking Europe made contact with a very interesting work with the Roma community in the city of Ghent on inclusion and integration. And I don't know very much about the context and the situation in Ghent. I guess they have similar discussions as we have in Stockholm, as you can find in Paris and in many other cities in Europe. But we're going to learn much more about that now, because here we have from Ghent, Vanden Berge, who works in the city hall, I believe, in Ghent, and Martin Balogh, who comes from the other side, from the civil society side. And a warm welcome to both of you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. First, I want to ask you something. If it works. Okay. When I show you this graphic, what do you think? This is a graphic about population in Ghent, about newcomers, and you see these increasing numbers. So, what do you think? Perhaps you think this is very good for economy and all those new workers, they can fill all the new, old bottleneck professions. Or they can work in the jobs we don't want to do. Or in the opposite, perhaps you think, oh my goodness, all these people entering in our city, where they will live, where they will work. So, many minutes about thinking about this influx, but we will talk about this later on. So, I want to present you some data about inter-European migrants. We meant Eastern European migrants. About Roma in Ghent, something about policy, and some actions in the field, 2 projects we are working on, and then a few conclusions. So, Belgium, that's a complex country. It's divided. Ghent is in the north. It's here. That's Brussels, Flanders, Wallonie. We are a city of 2,050 inhabitants. This is the table about the numbers and the increasing numbers. You see, going through it with you. The most important nationality in numbers is the Bulgarian in Flemish. More than 6,000. Then there is the Slovakian nationality, and then the Polish. You see the increasing number of Bulgari, and at the end of 2003, 300, and now 6,000 even. In the future, 7,000. There's a largely increased numbers. I already showed this one. You see here, at that moment, 10 new EU countries became member of the EU. At that moment, Bulgaria and Romania became member of the EU. For Bulgaria, you see what happens in Ghent. You see that influx, and for the moment we see a new increasing influx because the transitional matters stops in Belgium, because after 7 years you have to stop, country have to stop its transitional matters about working about free movement. So Bulgarian and Romanian have free movement for the moment, since January in this year. So the numbers are increasing. There is full access, I already said. Only the Croatians have the new EU country for the moment has transitional rules. They only can work with a work permit and bottleneck professions. That was the case for the Bulgarians and the Romanians in the past 7 years, so they are still changing their position, the Romanians and the Bulgarians. We have also some data about unemployment. See the growing numbers. For the Bulgarians, this is really an underestimation because in the past they didn't get access to the full labor market, to all jobs, and as a result, they didn't get access to the service that make the statistics, your arbeidsvermittlingen or VDAP service. So they are not really all in statistics, and for the moment also here very strong growing numbers. You see here for the Slovakian, they are decreasing a little bit, the numbers, but in reality that's not so, because some Slovakian are out of the system because they lost their residence documents because you were too long in social welfare, and when you are in social welfare for 3 months, you are put out of the system. So, and also VDAB, the regular employment service, put you out of the system. So they are no longer in the statistics, but they are still in Ghent. About qualification, we have some statistics about qualification from VDAB. You see the average percentage of low educated people. These are people who have not finished secondary school. The average percentage is 45%. You see for Bulgaria it's 70%. Poland only 37. You see Polish are very high educated. You see also here 29% have a bachelor or master degree. Right? That's more than the average percentage. And the Slovakian group has the highest percentage of low educated persons. So there are big difference between the different communities. If you want to talk about Roma in Ghent, it's always difficult to have the numbers. We have an estimation of the field workers that for Bulgaria, there are 60% of the Bulgarian people in Ghent are from Roma origin. So more than 4,000. For Slovakia and Czechia, the estimation is 90%, even more than 90%. So we come in total nearly 6,000 Roma in Ghent. Is this much? Is this little? We have 2,550, sorry, 250,000. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. It's too late in the afternoon for me to give a presentation. But yeah, you see the numbers. So for the Roma, it's 2.4%. Total of new EU migrants from Eastern Europe is 4 and more than 4%. All nationalities, 12%. When you're looking at origin, is the double. All foreign origins, looking at the parents also, it's the double for Ghent. So we are in Flanders champion for the highest percent of Eastern European Roma. And one of the important things I want to mention that is that the profiles of the Roma are very different. When we speak about Roma, the groups are different. In our experience, and I helped some Roma and not Roma from Eastern Europe to help to look for a job. There are differences. The various groups have very different profiles, and Bulgarian group is in our experience the highest educated. Already mentioned in the statistics also the same experience. They have more regular work experience, but in Ghent there is a big Turkish minority, and a lot of the Roma are also speaking Turkish. And there is a professor in Ghent who knows Bulgaria very well, and he always tells, and the Roma in Bulgaria are more integrated in the Turkish minority than in the Bulgarian majority. So also in Ghent, they are living between the Turkish people, the people from Turkish origin. There is a language problem. A lot of them survive in the Turkish grey or black economy. So they can survive speaking Turkish language, but in the long term it's not a good thing. For the Slovakian and Czech Roma, they are average lower educated. Of course there are exceptions. There is less regular work experience. Some of them worked for sure, but never worked with a contract. Some of them don't know what that is, a labor contract, what in it is. Especially women didn't work in regular jobs. I mentioned here there is less language problem. Yes, less comparing with the Bulgarian Roma, but there is still a language problem. And then the Romanian Roma, we see that's a rather small group in Ghent. They are not registered. They are not they have not been at the municipality to register. They have no documents, legal documents. They are rather outside the community of the municipality. We see them in a system of settler migration. A lot of them are living in squat houses or in slums. There are some of them begging on the street. And only exceptions are working in irregular jobs. Sometimes, but it's really an exception for this group. This group and this group, we think that they want to stay in Ghent if they have the opportunity to find a job. They want a better future for their children, and they think, a lot of them think that they can find this in Ghent. So they know that in the long run they need to find a job. I think I have I'll skip this because perhaps you think why is talking about Flemish policy? No, Belgium is a complex country. Integration matters is a regional matter, so it's not Belgium that the federal state that deciding about that. It's the regional part, Flanders in this case, that is deciding about this matter. There is a Middle and Eastern European policy, but not only on the new EU countries, but also on the candidate. Sorry, this is on the candidate countries like Turkey, and but also on Russia and Ukraine. So there is also a special focus on Roma. There is the estimation that in Flanders there are to 20,000 Roma, we think. That's an estimation. Vision is we can organize explicit actions, but not explicit. This means, for example, when you have a project and you want to recruit new migrants from Eastern Europe, okay, you can make special attention to recruit them in the groups. You ask at the mediators to bring candidates in, but afterwards, if there is another candidate outside of Eastern Europe, he still can enter in the project. It's not exclusive for, and I think it's better to have a mix of different nationalities and different origins. There is some monitoring. There is Flemish policy try to identify the problems, and there is a consultation group with the major cities: Brussels, Antwerp, Ghent. There's a point of contact. The local governments who have a little number of new migrants from Eastern Europe, they can contact this point and for information and so on. There is a new project, neighborhood stewards, we call it. 16 full-time equivalents are engaged in 6 in Ghent for problems about, that's the entrance cohabitation, but in reality they are giving intense support on housing, employment, education, on all those matters, more social matters, not only on cohabitation. It starts with, a lot of time, it starts with this, the cohabitation problem. The neighborhood said, oh, the children are playing too late on the street, or garbage and so on. But afterwards, they try to help the family in other problems, and then, in most of the time, cohabitation problems are solved. There is also some pressure and contact with countries of origin, and there is, there are some international partnerships in Eurocities, Benelux, and so on. There is no press in the room. I can speak frankly. No, because when I speak to Flanders, I think in Ghent we have more experts than on Flanders, and in Flanders government. I already mentioned, I didn't mention, but we have half of the Bulgarian citizens in Flanders living in Ghent, nearly half of the Slovakian citizens living in Ghent, so we have relatively a high percent of EU migrants and Roma. We working really on this issue in Ghent. So I think when some time ago there was a visit from a Swedish colleague to Ghent, they were very interested in our system of coordination. There is, we have what we call Permanent Consultative Committee, PCC. There is a steering group with the major. That's very important. That's not only administration that is focusing on this, but also the major and 4 deputy majors, 4 aldermen. There is a working group of the administration that is preparing the steering group. There are thematic working groups. I'm in the thematic working group of employment. We prepared a paper about all the problems about the employment, and we presented it to the steering group. And we try to get, a green light to go further on certain issues on the local basis, but also on a higher level, to give some signals to higher authorities about employment. Employment is mighty. It's my specialism. That's a shame about the the thematic working groups. Perhaps important is to say in these thematic working groups there are, of course, the city services, but also some NGOs, some self-organizations of Roma are also present here. We think it's important that not only city services are trying to collect all the problems, you need input of other organizations who are working with these groups, social organizations or other ones. We have yes, contact. I have a colleague who is chairman of the Eurocities Task Force Roma, Balogh. For the moment he is in Budapest, so on a meeting of Eurocities, but there are also other high authorities where we have contact. I already mentioned there is contact with the self-organization and the NGOs. There is a meeting between the major directly and these self-organizations and those NGOs, because we have in Ghent a lot of volunteers. I don't know how it is here in Stockholm, but we have a lot of volunteers working for this issue, helping people from Eastern Europe. And they are very critical against local authorities and other authorities, but it's very important to have that contact, straight contact between those levels. So the politicians on a higher level can hear immediately, directly, what are the problems of these people. Also, we have contact with the countries of origin. For the moment, we have a project running in Bulgaria, a Berge project about how implementing social economy in Bulgarian cities. That's really new for them, and we try to help them to start up social economies projects in certain Bulgarian countries, because we know the situation in these lands is not very good, and the situation of minority is even worse. We are doing some field work. We have an information desk that's very important to give information about, to register in the community, in the municipality, how can you work and what are the conditions to work. Normally there are no longer conditions. There are the neighborhood stewards. We have school mediators, I think 15, and 4 of them are really focused on the new EU migrants from Eastern Europe. We have street workers, outreach workers. There was a visit of Bulgarian and Slovakian police to Ghent. It was a little bit funny. They recognize some people on the street. I know it. Most of the time, not in a good way. And we have labor market mediation. My colleague here, Martin, will talk about that. Squatting, we have a lot. There is some squatting in Ghent, and squatting is not illegal in Belgium. And a lot of people are surviving in houses they're open, the houses they are empty. They're surviving there for some weeks, some months, and then they go to another house and so on. For the moment, we have a project in the spirit of housing first. So this is a small project, but 2 families that were in bad conditions, they were offered a house, and their situation is stabilized, and for the moment they are working. Before they didn't work. So we are bringing them in a more regular life in Ghent. Now we going to talk about 2 projects, employment projects. We start with the second one. and I have to switch, and after that Martin will talk about this. The first one. We have a work experience project, and that's a collaboration between different partners, social welfare, the city of Ghent, some NGOs, and also VDAB, your arbeit, your service, your regular service of employment. We tried to reach the group of new migrants, and in the beginning it didn't run well, but afterwards, and the third call, it was we reached a lot of candidates from the Eastern Europe. There is first a preliminary phase of 1 month. Then we offer them a contract, a labor contract for 1 year, and afterwards job seeking, support job seeking, and job coaching if they find a job. You say this is a small project, but 20 labor contracts, it's not so small in our kind of view. There were 20 places reserved for Eastern European and fulfilled for the moment for Eastern European migrants. Preliminary phase, we think normally we all already have this kind of projects, but we introduce now a preliminary phase because the group that enters this project was weaker, was not so strong, and the skills were not so good. So we put in this phase, and we try to look at what were the competencies where we have to work on. We give them a first job orientation, because most of the time when you ask someone, where do you want to work? I want to do everything. No, that's not possible. Everything is not possible. Everything is not a job. They start a course in Dutch, link it on working, especially link it on work, and there are some traineeships. And that's important when you do a traineeship, when you, in the job orientation, you look what kind of job you want to do, but when you really go in a traineeship, you see what the job means to you. So it's important, these traineeships. So we have the work experience of 1 year, the contract, we have 4 professions: green worker, cleaning, polyvalent worker, and kitchen help. If they finish that year, and normally most of them finish that year, because we have very good results. That was a weak group, but for the moment, nobody stopped during that year. After that year, they get rights in unemployment benefits. Because after that year, they can, even when they don't find a job, they can survive on benefits of unemployment. Of course, there is a contract, there is a wage. They learn about working in Belgium in a regular situation. Already said, a lot of them never worked with a contract. There is a lot of focus on language, and we also, the organizations are learning about this project also for other origins, other nationalities, because it's very important that also the instructors who work daily, on a daily basis with these people, that they manage their own language in the right way, that they speak in slow and understand. There are language bodies, there is a language course linked to the job. For example, a green worker has to learn some special words about working in a group. There is also a social orientation course in their own language about what is living in Belgium, what is the Belgium social security system, residence, employment, and so on. There is a strong support, and I forget something, and perhaps I had to put it first. There is a strong support on, there's a strong social support, because a lot of people entering in this project still have some other problems about housing, about education, about residence, and so on. So they get support. There is vocational training linked to the different jobs they are working in. There are those traineeships. During that year, they can go in another traineeship to try something else. Sorry. And in the last months, there is training in job interviews, and they want to look for another job afterwards. It's important that they have training how to communicate with the intermediary, how to communicate with the entrepreneur, and so on. So after that year, sorry, this is after that year, already mentioned, there is support, there is job coaching if necessary, and the results, 40%, after half year, 40% is active in a regular job or in a trade. So we think, and the results are not worse than for other groups. This is very important, but we have experience for a long time to do this projects for Turkish people, for North African people, for low educated and long-term unemployed people. Now it's the first time with these new groups, but the results are rather good. No, I'm going to skip back. Okay. Now it's a time for Martin. He will speak Dutch, and I try to translate.
We do have a small problem. We're running out of time. I don't know how to, because our next guest can't stay very long. It has to be like 15 minutes past 4. So can we do this very short, or do we take a break, take Pierre Schelikens from the EU Commission, and then come back to Martin?
For me, it's okay to come back. Perhaps
it's not good. I mean, it's not.
I didn't look at time.
Because we have just 5 more minutes, and I guess my time takes more than 5 minutes.
It's the same for him. For me,
can we take a break and then come back to my time? Is that okay?
I can translate rather quickly for him. Just rather quickly, just translate for him.
Yes.
Vad kan jag länge pausa? Avevo cavolo rete vakirel. Aku da tu mai pala vakire. Saya va tu mai kutrama. Giusto?
Is it okay? Okay. I'm sorry, but we can. It's the only solution, I guess. Pierre, do you have a